Hello, we are live once again. Live trading, which will be fun. We're using the Edgepool platform today, of course, as well as looking at TradingView for the general things. I've just got a new laptop, so I've just had to fly around and download Chrome just to stream, which is a bit annoying, but I had a feeling it might happen at some point. So how are we? How's your day been? How's your trading day been? I haven't traded too much today. I've been a little bit busy. This is the SPY you can see on the screen now for now. We'll jump into the platform in a little bit, of course. Yeah, no, it looks like we're kind of pushing up into the close a little bit. Obviously, I tend to trade the power hour report. We'll bring up the data while we're here, actually. Right, here we go. So the data here, we've got, can you see that? Maybe I can zoom in a bit. There we go, nice and big-ish. So what I've done is actually used, maybe I'll just move me out of the way. Does that work? Yeah, that kind of works. So you've got the bits on the side here, obviously stock, SPY, and then we've got the power hour breakout report, which you can choose lots of different ones. We'll be going into quite a few little reports today, so we can kind of show you what they kind of do and how you can kind of change the inputs, etc. So we'll go through that. Data range is kind of 6 months. That's where I kind of leave it. Sometimes I do it more specifically. Don't know what that was. It's the cable. Sometimes I do it more specifically to the actual kind of, for example, we're on a bull run at the moment, so I just do it from the beginning of the bull run rather than the last 6 months, just because it's a different type of market, if you see what I mean. And then by weekday, I kind of what I select. And of course, we are Thursday, so you can choose which one you want. If it is slightly smaller, you can just, select these ones. In fact, you can probably see that just about. Yeah, maybe I can do this. That changes nothing. Only confuses me more. There we go. So there's a 17% chance that a new low of day is made. So that's a new low of day in the power hour, which is 1 hour time frame. And you can see, I'm slightly left. And you can see here, obviously, the low of day. Let me just change my setup to Edgepool Night. You can see here, of course, the blue line is when power hour starts. So on a 5 minute time frame at the moment, so that's half an hour worth of trading. Nice. And obviously the low in the day was set at 7:20 for me, but that would have been probably 2:20 off the top of my head for you. Yes, James Johnston, definitely a quiet day in the markets at least. So we'll see what happens kind of going into the close. And to finish the week out tomorrow, I guess it'll be interesting. See how far that goes. I hope you can hear me okay. I've got the normal mic. I think it's hooked up right. Let me know if it's a little bit cloudy or anything like that. Maybe I can sort that out. But it should be okay. So yeah, let's have a look at the data. So I've got about 18 apps on my phone open. Pop that there. Cool. So the data shows that it's a 15% chance that a new low of day is made, which is obviously not very low. So we can use this as our support for the day, of course, and it kind of coincides with this red line as well, which we did touch on a little bit last week, which is the initial breakout levels. The initial breakout, which you'll see here, not initial breakout, initial balance breakout, sorry. Initial balance breakout is the first hour of trading. And the high and the low is set, and then whatever that range is then gets converted into lines for the rest of the day. And what you'll find is most of the time, well, pretty much all the time, those lines get hit on a regular basis. So you can see here, get rid of that because we don't really need that. In fact, I do want it, but I want to hide it first. There we go. Hide that line. So you can see throughout today's trading, kind of came back up here, used it as resistance, came back down, used it as support, and again, kind of broke through it eventually. Resistance here, again resistance, and then the next line down, of course, is support as well. So yeah, those lines do matter, and that's kind of my strategy when it comes to Edgeful, just because I'm based in the UK, of course. So I can't really trade the market open because I'm busy working, of course. What am I going to do here? So hopefully that kind of makes sense. And I'll do a kind of a little run through, like a brief trade. I'm probably not going to trade this today, which is a shame because last week I said the same thing. If it comes back down to that line, maybe. But at the moment, it's not quite where we want it. What I should do there is name it differently. Sorry, I'm just getting used to having a little look around. So basically, if the trading comes down to this level again, which is the low of day / the red line, this area, then it could be worth a punt. But well, it's not really a punt. It could be worth a trade. It's a very high probability trade. But we've got 25 minutes left. The likelihood it comes all the way down here and comes all the way back up is very slim. So I'm afraid that today is basically gone. And that's the thing with the power breakout trade breakout report. It's just not. It's not always there. And this is obviously the lows of the day. You would have had it on previous days. It would have been the highs of the day. I don't know if you can have that data. That's a shame. Oh, here we are. Oh, this is the US 500. That's why. Same thing, but just obviously. And this is the futures rather than the actual SPY itself. So you can see yesterday, what we had is the first hour of trading was in this box here, as I mentioned. We actually came out of that, came down, used it as support, and then we went up to these levels. So these lines, once again, they do tell a story and they do kind of play into it. Let's more specifically look into the last hour of that trading. So the last hour is between these two blue lines. Obviously, the high of day here was set just before, about 20 minutes before the last hour, and then of course it was actually broken. So you would have had an anomaly hit there. Let's have a look at that. So if I go to Wednesday, so the odds are actually a little bit higher, and I think that's because of FOMC generally. Let's get rid of that. Minimize that. Yeah, so the odds of that, the new high of day made was 33%. So it's actually a little bit higher than the normal kind of 15, 20%. So that's probably why. And of course, that's probably now had that data been put in. So that's probably a little bit higher. I mean, 33 is still pretty good. So obviously, most of the time, it still doesn't make a new high. But I mean, the lower the better. Obviously, we want to have probabilities on our side. Of course, when we're trading. So that's that one. That's the power hour breakout report. Let's go back to where we are. So once again, we get a little bit of resistance at these lines. These lines are brilliant for just general day trading. Now you can just have it with trend lines, etc. So during the day, you would have had high of day there, come down, possibly across all not the most wonderful trend line, but you could have had draw up there maybe. Yeah, so you've got multiple touches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and a little bit of a 5, and we had a bit of a breakout, come back down and retested it and pushed higher. But again, it depends on what kind of patterns you look for, what kind of strategies you have normally. It's just having Edgeful data alongside your normal strategies is a win-win. Of course, I mean, why wouldn't it be? What I'm going to do is move to the SPY chart so we can have a look at a few more examples. Why is that there? Sometimes I draw lines in my charts and I don't know why they're there. It's all part of being a trader. Anyway, so we had that today. This is yesterday, which we covered already. Let's have a look at Tuesday. Tuesday, first hour of trading was in this box here. We subsequently broke down, we touched this line. So these lines, once again, they do get met. Once, twice, almost 3 times, but not quite, and then pushed up back above into the initial breakout line. And then the hour, this one's a bit of a choppy day, so it doesn't quite hit with the power hour breakout report. So yeah, we've got the first hour, or the last power hour, should I say. Power hour is in between these blue lines. So obviously the low of day is down here, and we're looking at not breaking that. But obviously I've got nowhere near, so we won't use that as an example. Anyway, we'll move on to a different one, which is the gap fill report. So what I'll do is move into a different layout, edge fill day. We have a lot of lines on the table here, which we do not want. We just want to get rid of them. Just want the gap fill ones. So previous day's range doesn't matter. And then everything else, just get rid of all of them apart from gap fill. I wonder if that will work on SPY. Yeah, so this is what we want to see. We want to see gap fill data. So this is the TradingView indicator, which you get obviously when you sign up for them. You'll get all of that. And there's a bunch of indicators. I'll show you them now. They're all there. There's loads of them. You can have a good old time playing through those. There's lots of different types of gap fill ones as well. Gap fill by close, sessions, spike extensions, etc. I just use the standard gap fill. And all it is really is the likelihood of the gap filling. It's simple as that. So today the gap filled. You can see that. So this is yesterday's trading. And you can see at the bottom there, I can't go down there, but kind of down here. Wednesday, 6th of August, which is yesterday, almost before the close. We closed there, we opened up here this morning. And then the gap is very nicely kind of shaded out for you, so you can kind of see what the gap is. And obviously, subsequently, we filled that gap. Now, this gap is measured by percentage. So we closed here, and we go all the way up to here. So that's a 0.55% gap. Now let's look at the data. All right, so we'll go to reports, go to gap fill. Last 6 months data, we'll just leave it like that for now. And you can see, obviously, we did just measure that at 0.55% gap size. It's actually 0.56, give or take, probably the same sort of thing. If I drew it to the cent, it probably would be that as well. Of course, we've already had this data. It's because this is more of a beginning of the day report that you would use, obviously, because the gap fill. And obviously, the fill time was 10:55, which is about an hour and a half into the market time. Bias is bullish, and the gap status filled, as we saw. So the fill percentage is 50% set. You can see that there, 50% set, which is what we're looking for. We're looking for gaps that are 50%. Are they filled? And you can see a gap up. 70% of them are 75%. Sorry, are filled, which is just incredible. Straight off the bat, you know that 75% of the time in the last 6 months, this gap here that we've had 0.5 has filled. It's just incredible that they just know that. Well, the data's worked that one out. We'll get rid of that. We don't need that. So you can. The tricky thing with this though is stop losses, and we'll get to that in a minute. So what you want to do is the gap fill, come back down. Obviously, your trade has been made. You can move on, have a nice day. But if the gap is particularly big, say for example, we opened up at 1%, up all the way up here, the likelihood of a 1% gap is got to be lower. Let me try and figure that one out. So a fill percentage, 100%. So it's 62% fill, so it's actually still pretty good percentage-wise. But what you can do is, this is going to be quite hard to show, but you've got a 100% gap there, which is theoretically would have been all the way up here. And for it to come all the way back down, that would have been 61% chance of happening. But say you only want to have it halfway, then you only want a 50% of that. It's going to be hard to do this, I think, on here. But you can basically set this. So on the customized side here on the left, you can basically play with the percentages. So for example, okay, let's use today as an example. So it's a 50% gap. So we use 25% of that gap. And this one's going to be a lot higher, so 89% filled. And that would have been fine. So, yes, we're all good. It was just a great report in general, really. I wish I could utilize it more. I want to try and get more of a swing trading approach to this as well for the gap fill report, just because when you have gap ups, like after earnings and things like that, might be a slightly longer term way of looking at things. But yeah, so another one is obviously the opening candle continuation report. Initial balance breakout, that's what we want. Interesting. So we've got what, 13 minutes left? So with what am I doing? There we go. Do I want to do that, or do I want to do ORB, opening range breakout? Might try that. Okay, yeah. So you've got ORB, 15 minutes SPY, which is the first 15 minutes of trading. I don't know if I have this on the chart though. No. But I can get it on the chart. Let's get rid of that. Indicators, as I mentioned before, so you get all of these ready to go. And you've got ORB, opening range breakout. Select that. It comes on the screen there. Let's get rid of all of these so we can see what we're looking at. Opening range breakout is essentially the first 15 minutes of trading, I believe. Yes. So there's a little tiny shaded box you can just about see here, there. You're basically looking out for a breakout from these levels. And we had that, of course. So today, this is the breakdown, of course. So today, the breakdown, so there's a 20% chance of a breakdown from today's opening range breakout. 56% chance double break. So it actually was the 20% today. That's actually quite rare. Either way, so you've got this 15-minute breakout. You can just trade it as a kind of a general area that will break out at some point. So breakdown, of course, we have the breakdown here, and then we can add the where are my initial balance breakout levels? I will turn off the retracements. Get rid of them. And then you can basically use those levels for, essentially a push down towards the this zero line, essentially. And you can kind of see it actually coincides with the gap fill, so you could use that to that as well. That's actually interesting. I kind of come up with that right on the spot. So you have the opening range breakout report, which is this one. This is set in the first 15 minutes. We push down, of course, and then we basically push towards the gap. So you've kind of got two different reports kind of working together to come to a certain area. So you can see how you can use multiple reports to kind of get the trade that you want to get. I personally just used the kind of power hour breakout report because that's it's beneficial for me because it's a good time of day for me, and also I like to keep my trading quite simple. I generally trade with like trend lines normally. So today would have been a good example of a nice trend line break, which you can see here. This is a bigger time frame, of course, I understand that, but we can use that to our advantage on the smaller time frames. But with the 5 minute, you can also, as we did a little bit earlier, draw a trend line all the way through there, essentially. And we've broken out this sort of area probably about an hour ago, just over an hour ago. and we've just kind of gone up since then. You can bring your stop loss as you go, and you've essentially created another trend line here as well. So actually, with the bias of the day, I would be looking for a break of this to a lower side. We're going to finish off by having a look at some just general stocks, kind of what I do normally in the streams. We'll go to the daily chart. If you are interested, obviously, in the Edgeful platform, I know I kind of waffled a lot around it today, but if you are interested, I have got a link below in the description, the YouTube video, YouTube live stream, whatever you want to call it, for you to have a look. There's loads of they've got their own YouTube channel as well, Edgeful, so it's worth checking them out. Andre is obviously a lot better at explaining different things than I am. But one of the better things, actually, if you do kind of get involved, if you just at the bottom of every single report, there is a video explaining what it is. Obviously, Andre is there. He'll start talking about it. And then, of course, the kind of imagery around it as well. So the double break is a break higher and a break lower. So that's the percentage that's going to happen from the first 15 minutes. Of course, first 15 minutes of trading, the likelihood of a double break is very high because it's so choppy in the first hour, let alone the first 15 minutes. And of course, you've got the opening range breakout, which is kind of going out from that area, which we did talk about throughout this live stream. Where do you want to go? Back to the charts. So SPY down 0.25% today. It's okay, don't mind that. Let's have a look at some big boys, shall we? Netflix. I want to see what you're looking at in the comments, whether you're watching this live or a little bit later on. What are your stocks that you want me to look at some point in the future? And what are you looking at trading at the moment? Netflix looking okay, actually, maybe a bit of a bull flag happening right now. They had pretty good earnings recently here on the 17th of July. So there could be a potential breakout there for Netflix. Target, obviously, all-time high. Not sure about that. It's kind of broadening. We don't like that. That gives a little bit of a gateway. If we break this low, we can come all the way down here to kind of 1,090. But the market being the way it is, I'd look for upside more than anything. So we're looking around info line up to all-time highs, 13%. That's not too bad. Let's move on. Meta, a bit of a wedge coming up. I'm not too sure what that's there for. A bit of a wedge coming in. Maybe we can go down into some smaller time frames. Yeah, so very clearly, nice little wedge. I wouldn't be playing this on the daily time frame. I would literally just... That's probably not a bottom. Maybe like that instead. It hasn't fully formed. Probably leave that one alone. This is what I do with my charts. I literally just go through chart by chart, draw lines, and if they don't make me feel good, then I will just move on to the next one. Beautiful trend line there on Microsoft. You'd like to think if that breaks, this sends the SPY potentially lower. It's looking pretty rough, actually. Yeah, MACD is crossing over to downside, still quite elevated. This whole time actually it's been coming down, even though the stock's been going up. Yeah, I'd keep an eye on Microsoft to the downside. I probably won't trade Microsoft to the downside, but be good for a kind of overall market sentiment. Nvidia still kind of plodding away. Did kind of break out of a mini trend line there. Semiconductors still powering on. SMH, this is the London one because that's what I have. Less fees and all that. Alibaba doing quite well. Just need to break out of this second trend line. I've kind of got it in this area. I'm currently in this trade as well, so hoping for good things there. Obviously, the next stage is about 132-ish, but my ultimate goal is 142 for Barber. Google, again, similar story to Nvidia, kind of popping out of this little trend line here, making a move to 200. I think we'll get that in the next couple of trading days, even if it's just barely. But then you've got the big old gap fill here at 204. That's exciting. Very exciting. Tesla, once again, doing quite well today. I did tweet out earlier that I'm actually in this position as well for longer term, obviously. So, a message come up. To see to my message. So yeah, Tesla, this is one of mine I'm looking at quite closely at the moment, and this is a very simple pushback to 420. Very simple. I don't know if you figured it out or not, but I'm not actually outside. This is a fake background. I'm sure you figured that one out though. Yeah, I don't know what else to cover in on Tesla. It's just a very simple move. I want it to go from here to here. Stop loss down here. So we're looking at a 3.88 risk to reward ratio. Pop that up a little bit if we're being a bit cheeky. 4-1, 422. Or anything you could actually pull the. It doesn't matter. 4-1 ratio. I'll take that any day. If it triggers out to the downside, then of course that is trading. Apple flying at the moment. Actually, yesterday was 5%. Today up 3%. Gap up here on Apple. You would expect that to possibly be filled. That's another thing about Edgeful. If you look at different stocks as well. So today we had a gap up on Apple. And of course, not every piece of data is perfect, but you kind of take what you get from the data. So if there's a high probability in your favor, they're the trades you take. If it's a low probability, you don't trade that. We want to go to gap fill. Today, obviously not filled today. The gap up was 2.64% up, which is a pretty big gap. And I've gone for 25% of that. So 25% of the 2.64 would be 65%-ish, 65%, 0.65%, sorry. So you'd want it to come down 0.65%, and that has happened 93% of the time. And you can see already in the chart that's happened. This is the overall gap, 100% field data, just to make you aware there. Does it say how much? Yeah, so gap fill 40%. And we've got 25. What we want to do is move that to 40% because that's what's happened. I hope you're following me here. If not, rewind a bit, watch it again. And this has happened 82% of the time compared to the 18% not filled, which is just great. You just know that in the last 6 months, every time this has happened, it's come back down and filled the gap. So they're the things you're kind of looking for on the open. It's not necessarily just the SPY, the QQQ, or the futures. It's the stuff around Apple, Tesla, Microsoft, Nvidia, all of that kind of stuff. That's all tradable stuff, and it's all available to get with these reports on Edgeful. Yeah, no, I think that's pretty awesome. Back to the charts then. We've got Apple to cover, which we've just done. We've now closed. The market's now closed. Okay. We pushed into the close there, didn't we? Blimey. Looks like we might be having a healthy Friday. Yeah, very solid close. We are still way below. Why is my layout like that? There we go. Not sure what happened there. Yeah, so healthy Friday, potentially. Still below this trend line, so there's still room to move down. Not that I want it to happen, but it's possible. We might come up here, kiss that, come back down. Yeah, we'll see. And last chart of the day, we've got Amazon. Obviously, a big gap down from the earnings, not ideal. And then obviously subsequently since then, kind of curved around, pushed back up. We're looking at the gap fill here from a general kind of swing trading point of view. Let's just say 231, which is not far away now. I mean, congratulations if you picked up some Amazon just after the earnings drop. Yeah. Struggling at the 20 moving average. That's normal, that's fine. But like I said, if we get a good day tomorrow, especially after that strong close, expect Amazon to fill that gap probably tomorrow. That's it for today. Obviously, if you did get some insight with Edgeforth, then do repost this. There's no harm in doing that. Watch it again. I know some of my words are not always most clear, but definitely the theory is there, and the thoughts are there, and the evidence is there as well. So it kind of all makes sense. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next Thursday for another Edgeforth dive in. Yeah, we'll go from there. Take care, everyone. Enjoy your trading. Happy trading, and trade safe. Actually, it's tricky out there. Cool. Adios.